What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 300 Club Podcast. This is episode 27. My name is Gil. This is Kelvin.
What's going on, everybody?
What's up? What's up? Happy Thanksgiving to you, to your family, to yourself, and happy
Yes.
holidays, bro.
Likewise, bro. Thank you so much. How was your Thanksgiving, by the way?
It was fine. Went over my mom's crib, my girl's crib, and then we went out in the night. That was a very long day actually, but it's fine. 4 day weekend. I
You,
love it.
you saying that you guys went out to eat, or you guys went to like a
Went
different
out
location?
later, like in the night, like not a function, but like a Thanksgiving, but like people around our age type shit.
Okay, all right, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was different. Yeah,
What are some thoughts and opinions on Friendsgiving? Do you like those? Do you host
I
those? Do
like
you
it.
like
I
going to
like the
those?
concept. I like the concept. I think it's nice if it's done a little after or a little before the Thanksgiving holiday. I think it's a good way to reconnect with some peers or friends. As long as somebody has a space for it, you know. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. How about you?
Yeah, I like going to Friendsgivings. I don't think I like to host it just because of the mess and everything. And
Yeah.
at some point you want to wrap it up, but you can't until the last person goes home. Maybe somebody's gonna sleep over. So that's just me. But my Thanksgiving was pretty good. Just spend it with family. Um, yeah, it was fun. No complaints. I got a new addition in the family. I got a new puppy, so just
And
getting acclimated with that. But it's been good, man. Just thankful for everybody. Another year. I hope hopefully for those that are watching, everybody spent their Thanksgiving pretty well. And we got a fun episode for you guys. It's been a minute. Like I said, we're gonna be coming at you guys at least once every other week or so until breaking news begins to flourish, and it's gonna begin to happen. We have the winter meetings coming up within the next couple of days or so. And I have high expectations. I think the Juan Soto ball is gonna begin to fall, and I think everything else is gonna
yeah,
be aligned after that. But we do have some moves that's occurred. But before we talk about the moves, before we talk about any potential signings, there were awards given out, and
yeah.
that's what the gist of this episode is gonna be about. Is that some of the awards have been given out, and we're here to talk about it. Anything else you want to add before I go ahead and start this episode up?
Now you can start it, bro.
All right, good. So for the rookie of the year, it was a pretty good one. At least in the National League, I thought it was very, very tight. Jackson
Yeah,
Merrill, Paul Skeens, and it sucks. I always try to go for hitters. We're hitters naturally, um, but but I mean, hey, Paul Skeens is tough to. It's tough to
yeah,
compare yourself against that guy.
yeah.
I actually wanted to share this graphic in particular because I want to have some fun a little bit in this episode. But Paul Skeens won Rookie of the Year. I don't know if it was unanimous or what, but he was also in the running for AL Cy Young. So
Yeah.
this guy has had a heck of a year. You touched on it before we recorded. Go ahead and share your thoughts.
Yeah, like I mentioned, like this dude has had a crazy 2 year window where you could compare him to any top athlete probably of all time. Like this dude went to college. This dude, his last season in college, he won a World College World Series. He gets drafted number one overall, and less than a year later, he makes it to the major league. So he didn't spend a lot of time in the minor league system. He impresses this season. He's become one of the best pitchers in the National League, and he got some votes with Cy Young. He wasn't going to win it, but he got some votes, and I think that's just a testament to how good he is. He's electric. His girlfriend is pretty famous, and she's an athlete too, so that helps boost the marketability. Um, yeah, I like this guy, man. He has a good size, good throwing arm, good character. I'm excited to see where else he can take us because he's amazing.
I agree. I agree. I think you touched up on a great note in terms of marketability. His significant other is another world famous athlete coming out of LSU. He's had a
Yeah,
crazy 2 year span. And we mentioned the thing about his significant other because having a couples like that, you already know the wonders that it can do for any sport. If you look at the
yeah.
Travis Kelce's, the Taylor Swifts, and
Mhm.
so on, um, once you have that popularity added onto the sport, is a good thing. It's a
Yeah,
real good thing. But more into Paul Skeens, man, his arsenal is electric. He has great stuff, great control, great movement on his pitches. He's the full package. I'm curious to know where his career is going to end up. And I say that because we already know the Pittsburgh Pirates are not a team to home their or house their prospects for long term. They're just a
yeah,
cheap franchise, and it sucks because you want to see, teams like this, like the Pirates, which is a storied franchise, keep these players, but eventually these players move on. Just a sneak peek into episode 28 on next week's episode. We're going to be talking about contracts and rookie contracts and if, players are worth the deals and our owners paying and stuff. But this is something we're going to touch up on a little bit later. But for now, Paul Skeens, he's going to be in Pittsburgh for the next 5 to 6 years, hopefully
Yeah,
longer. I would like to see him stay with the Pittsburgh Pirates and be the horse of that franchise. But we shall see. But nonetheless, man, well deserved. Well deserved.
definitely.
Another rookie of the year for the American League was Luis Gil. Now, this one I think was a more tighter race. We had the prospect, I can't remember his name right now, the prospect from the Orioles, who was in second, and then also was Yankee catcher who was third. But Luis Gil, I mean, this dude's had a dominant run this year. He was pretty much unhittable. ERA was below a three, well below a three. At some point earlier this year, he had he was carrying the Yankees pitching staff on his back.
Yeah,
And I think that in the future, I could see him probably working on his control a bit better. But for now, rookie of the year, well earned. And I think that he had a lot to prove this year. He had to remain healthy. I don't think I expected this out of him, but I'll take it.
facts. I feel like the only thing that I wish is that I wish the Yankees were a little more confident in him, like heading towards the playoffs. I feel like as a fan of the sport, I didn't really see much of him, like close to like September, October. But I'm sure that will come around like this upcoming year or the years coming after that. He looks so far like he's establishing himself in the rotation. Um, Hopefully things turn out well for him because I don't know if you remember as a Yankee fan, but there's been a lot of Yankee prospects in the last 10 to 15 years where they're really impressive, like the first rookie year or the first 2 years, and then they just somehow don't maintain or live up to the expectations. Sometimes it's due to injuries, sometimes it's due to lack of command or confidence. I can name a few. I can name remember Michael Pineda. We thought he was going to be something nice. He's really good his rookie year. Uh,
That's a really good comparison, dude.
yeah, you got guys like Luis Severino. He's still pitching, but the hype he had coming out of rookie year to where he's at now. You can name other guys like Phil Hughes back then, Jabba Chamberlain, and the list goes on and on. Yeah. So
Very
hopefully,
under the
hopefully it turns out.
radar. Yeah. And I feel like the one thing about the Yankees organization is that even though we're known as the Bronx Bombers, we've
Yeah,
really done well developing our pitching lately.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that we need to now refocus more into our offense. But we'll discuss that later episode. But that's just my observations. Moving on to the next award. One thing that impacts a team is the influence of the manager. And it was reported now that the AL Manager of the Year was Stephen Vogt, who was also a first year manager as well. Great manager, great player. Didn't expect him to be a manager, especially so soon since he retired less than 5 years ago. And one of my fondest memories of Stephen Vogt was that he was a beast in the Oakland A's. And his one of his last at bats, he had his kids introduce him, which I thought was a very good moment. But the Cleveland Indians, nonetheless, had a great run. They made it up until the ALCS. Nobody expected that out of the Cleveland Guardians. At least to make a run like they did. This is a team that's definitely on the up and coming, on the rise. And Stephen Vogt, I feel like he did his job. There were some flaws that I saw during playoffs, but I feel like, every year you're going to be able to learn a little bit something. And I'm curious to know how this Cleveland Guardians team is going to go moving forward. Any thoughts?
Well, it's impressive. He retired. It says he retired in 2022. So
Oh, wow. Very, very
in
recent.
just 2 years, he's already a manager in the MLB. So that's great for him.
Wow.
Um, if he's managing this soon and this quick, I would guess that the players like him. There's something about him that maybe upper management season likes. Maybe they like to pick his brain or his baseball ideology. I'm happy for him. He was a utility player for most of his career, but he seems very knowledgeable. I do remember him in Oakland. He did play for Arizona in the past too, and he did play for Milwaukee. So he's been around the league for some teams. So good for him. I like the way the players play around him, and looking forward to seeing what's next.
I want to add one more point about Stephen Vogt.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like catchers in the MLB make great managers because I feel like you see both sides of the spectrum really, really well. You're
Yeah,
familiar with the pitching staff and be able to manage that pitch and be able to develop a relationship with those pitchers. But in addition, being a catcher, you naturally have to hit as well. And I feel
yeah.
like you can control the game a lot just from home plate itself. And I feel like it's an easier transition into a managerial role. Would you agree? Would you disagree?
That's an interesting perspective. I think there's some truth to it. Guys like Joe Girardi went with the Yankees and he was a catcher.
Joe Torre.
Joe Torre was a catcher, facts. I don't know if I can name too many examples of catchers, but there are some. Oh, Kevin Cash too, right? He was a catcher, right?
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah. I can see your perspective. I feel like they know a lot of game calling, controlling the game, working with the pitchers. Now, my question to you briefly: do you prefer a manager being a pitcher's manager or hitter's manager? What do you think it's a better outcome for success?
I feel like it's harder to manage the bullpen. So I'm gonna say managing your pitchers, knowing how they feel, managing their workload throughout the season because it's not
Hard.
just nine guys. Essentially, you're gonna be dealing with a rotation of anywhere between 15 to 25, maybe even 30 pitches at some point throughout the season. Being able to manage those call ups, knowing when to call up a pitcher for double headers, knowing exactly what you need. I feel like it's harder to manage a pitching staff,
Okay.
and through my college experience, being both not a two-way player, but at some point I was an infielder, and then I transitioned into pitching. It was difficult, in my opinion. Having to manage a pitching staff is a lot harder.
Okay.
And it's also at a more fragile state. I mean, you're dealing with arms, you're dealing with more fatigue. I feel like the hitting side, I just feel like as long as you have repetition every day, you have a healthy lineup, you have good coaches, they know what to expect out of the opposing pitching staff, and you can prepare them. I feel like that's easier management.
Gotcha. Okay.
What about you? Good question.
I don't know. I just thought about that question right now. I don't know what would be better, but I think you have a lot of strong points. If you guys are the viewers, please subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on this question. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Maybe it's a different perspective, maybe it's a different light. But I'll probably get back to you on that. I do like the fact that you brought up that pitching, like handling the pitching staff. Yeah, you have a five-man rotation, but you could even have 30 pitchers in a year due to season injuries, trades, call-ups, send downs, knowing when to take them out, when knowing when to have a short leash versus giving them more grace. Like that could be hard, yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. And
Uh,
we've seen that in the playoffs too, like managing, like the levels of managing from both sides. So maybe you have a point there. Yeah.
Yeah. Another manager that also did well managing his staff entirely was Pat Murphy for the Milwaukee Bucks. This is something that I feel like went completely under the radar. You have to understand that before this year, Craig Hansel moved on to I think it was the Chicago Cubs or was it the Mets? No, I'm sorry, the Chicago Cubs.
I think it's
And
Chicago.
he ended up getting paid the highest contract for a manager ever. And
Mm,
Pat Murphy stepped in for the Milwaukee Brewers, and I don't think anybody expected the Brewers to even make the playoffs, but they did, and they had a great run. Congrats to Pat Murphy. I want to segue into something a little bit that I think was a little bit more. His influence could have been had, and that was the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm sorry, the Milwaukee Brewers. Excuse me, Milwaukee. The Milwaukee Brewers. Sorry, we're in basketball and football season. They
yeah.
actually won the award for Gold Glove as a team. And I feel like that was probably a testament to Pat Murphy and the coaching staff. Again, this is something where you look at what you have going into a season, you look at what you have and you recognize what the strengths are. And you rely on those strengths to carry on throughout the season. And the fact that a new manager came in, he saw that we're not going to be hitting as many home runs. We don't have enough as many stars or as many veterans, but what can we capitalize on? And that was the defense. And they showed out this year, man. They have a couple of gold glovers on that team as well, as of now. So, thoughts and opinion on Pat Murphy taking over the Brewers after Craig Groundsel bounced, and the team winning the Gold Glove award.
Well, the Gold Glove is pretty dope. Us having faced them in the playoffs, I can tell that defense is their key strength. Also speed, and I think combining those two things is why they apply so much pressure on defense and on offense. They have multiple players that are versatile defensively. They have players that have stepped up. That like the addition of Jackson Churio from the farm system. They have Terang, the second baseman. They had Adames at short, but he's a pending free agent, so they're gonna have to ideally. find either a replacement, move to rank to short, and find a second baseman. But
Yep.
I think defensively they'll be fine. They still have William Contreras, pretty good as well defensively, and they still have Christian Yelich, which they actually went on a run without him because he got hurt in his back. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
So
How's that contract working out?
Good for Murphy. Seems like his players buy in for him, and he's a coach that I can respect. He gives credit where it's due to opposing teams, so nothing bad against him, you know.
I agree. I agree. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great pick. I was actually rooting for Carlos Mendoza of the Mets. Not a little bit biased, but I just feel like nobody. Same boat as the Brewers. I didn't think that the Mets were going to be able to make the playoffs, and the fact that they started out so bad and then ended up turning around, and
Yeah,
just the overall influence of the Mets. Shout out to Pat Murphy, but I think part of me wanted to see Carlos Mendoza win that. To be honest with you, now going into the Gold Glove Awards for the National League, we're gonna go ahead and dive into this really quickly, and that's gonna be this right here. This graphic that you were kind enough to share with us for the viewers is the National League Gold Glove winners. We have Chris Sale, who also took on the Cy Young Award. Patrick Bailey from the San Francisco Giants. Didn't expect that. Christian Walker, Bryce Terang from the Milwaukee Brewers. You mentioned him before. Matt Chapman, I think that's well expected. He's a go what it seems to be a Gold Glover every year. Nolan Arenado, who might get traded, he might not get any more Gold Gloves here there at third. You have Matt Chapman there. Ezekiel Tovar, great shortstop, very underrated. I know that it's because he plays for the Colorado Rockies, but this is a player that's extremely young, bright future. I'm curious to know how he's gonna fill out the rest of his body, because right now he's showing me that he's Alcides Escobar, and I need him to pack a little bit more. You could go from an Alcides Escobar to like a Didi Gregorius. Didi Gregorius had some strength. Ian Happ, well deserved. He's a Gold Glover every year. Also, Brenton Doyle from the Colorado Rockies, very underrated, and could be traded this year. Sal Frelick from the Milwaukee Brewers. We mentioned him before. The Brewers, like I said, they have a lot of Gold Glovers here now. And then the utility, which is one of my favorite awards, is Jared. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Jared Triolo from
probably.
the Pittsburgh Pirates. A lot of, I think it's a trend here. A lot of small market teams with Gold Glovers. Any thoughts?
Yeah, bro. Well, before I actually get into it, I feel like I don't know if this is a problem in just baseball because I feel like in basketball or football it doesn't happen as much, where the awards in baseball don't always reflect the best players in baseball. Whereas in basketball, let's say you get named All NBA defense, for the most part, the players listed are they're somewhat known or they're somewhat of a star, you know. Here, I can't really say the same besides Sale and Chapman. Like in terms of like what that everyone knows who they are, you know what I mean? Like from a market perspective. I don't know if that's a good thing for baseball. I don't know if it's a bad thing, but
I wanna ask you this question because I see where you're going with it. I
mm,
want to dive into that topic. Let me say the AL winners because I think we're following a trend. Seth
okay.
Lugo from the Kansas City Royals, Kyle Raleigh from the Seattle Mariners, Carlos Santana, Minnesota Twins, Andres Jimenez from the Guardians, Alex Bregman from the Astros, Bobby Witt Jr. from the Kansas City Royals, Stephen Kwan from the Guardians, Toronto Blue Jays, Dalton Varsho, Willie Abreu from the Red Sox, and Dylan Moore from Seattle Mariners. Is what you're saying is that that you feel like though there might be some set of biasness coming from the MLB giving out these Gold Glove awards to players that play for smaller markets?
I don't know. I don't want to say it's fully biased, but this is how I look at it, right? For example, you got guys. Let me give you an example. Somebody that's listed here. Let's say let's say this players here that are listed that they're from smaller markets or they're from teams that are like non-playoff teams or bad teams. Are you gonna equate somebody's great defense on a bad team compared to someone's great defense on a winning team? I don't think it's the same in my opinion.
I
Like, yeah,
agree.
obviously there's other factors like scoring runs and stuff, but I think it matters. Like for me, like you mentioned Tovar from the Rockies. Shout out to him, man. Like first time All Star. But damn, as a biased Mets fan, I feel like Lindor saved us a lot defensively this year. He had great defensive metrics. So for him to not get it, for him to not get an All Star, but somehow you ended up second in MVP. Like, how does that happen, bro? How does that happen?
Well,
I
very
don't
well
know.
said.
I
Very
don't
well
know,
said.
bro. I don't know,
Uh,
bro.
I love what you said there. I think it was a great point. I have all the winners here side by side,
Yeah,
and I think it's something that the MLB is probably doing it on purpose. And these awards, listen, of course I represent the Yankee fandom. You represent the Mets, and I will say I feel like Lindor got snubbed on a lot of these awards this year, dude. Like,
hell yeah,
what
every
does the
year,
guy got
bro.
to do? What does he have to do? I don't understand. I don't understand,
Losing
bro.
an MVP to DH for the first time ever, like whatever, bro. I guess I'll be looked as a hater for whoever watches this video, but it's okay. I'll have that on my jacket.
I know,
It's
I'm
okay.
not. I don't think you'll be looked at as a hater. It's a fact. It's an opinion that we have to respect, and that's
Oh
what we
my
do here at
God.
the 300 Club. We want to bring upon discussions that bring upon even more discussions and more opinions,
Yeah.
and we love to hear them. So make sure that you guys go ahead and write them down in the comments, and we would like to show them at a later highlight. Moving on to a different reward here. We talked about the Gold Gloves. Now we're gonna talk about the Silver Sluggers. Let me go ahead. Give me a second here so I can put them side by side so we can knock them twice in one. Give me 1 second here.
And as you're looking for that, I want to mention to the audience that the Toronto Blue Jays won the Gold Glove for the American League as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I forgot about that. The Toronto Blue Jays won that award for the Gold Gloves. Shout out to them. I didn't expect that actually. I think I got the
Word,
graphic here if I'm not mistaken.
word.
Um no, I don't. I apologize for the Toronto Blue
All
Jays
right.
fans. But yeah, they won. I think that was honestly I didn't expect that. I would think that a team like the Orioles would have won. Um I don't know what other team is competitive like that on the defensive end, but I would have thought it would have gone to a smaller market because that tends to be the trend in the
Yeah.
MLB. But the Silver Slugger winners not gonna go by their respective team, just gonna call them out by name: Bryce Harper, Ketel Marte, Francisco Lindor, Manny Machado, Teoscar Hernandez, Jackson Merrill. What a surprise there! Jurickson Profar, another surprise. William Contreras, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Um, any thoughts on the NO?
So see, to my point, you see what I was gonna say? Okay. So you look at the Silver Slugger you just mentioned, right? I can say that there's several superstars or all-stars in this list. Guys like Harper, Marte, Lindor, Machado, Teoscar, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts. Like they solidified stars and superstars, right? And this is an offensive award. We just went over a defensive award and we just had an argument that there's not a lot of the best talent in the world in those awards. So what does that tell you as a young kid? Like defense is important, but maybe you get paid with the offense. You know what I mean? That's how I see it.
Very,
Um,
very well said.
I
That's a soundbite right there. I like
think
that. I
about it,
like that.
maybe, just maybe, because shit. But nonetheless, shout out to
Oh,
these winners in the National League. I feel like all of them are deserving. They
yeah,
all had great years in their own respective ways, and they all helped their team go over the hump and go to the next level.
yeah.
Shout out Jurickson Profar. He's had an amazing year. And hopefully, this is the next chapter in his career where he's actually turned it around. It's
And
looking
he's
good
at
so
home in
far.
San Diego. Like that's where he belongs.
Yeah,
Like
he got to just stay there. He just got to stay there at this point. Yeah,
I will say this: out of all of these players, the one person that I'm actually the most proud of winning the Silver Slugger. Well, two. Manny Machado was struggling immensely at the beginning of this year, and he definitely
yeah,
turned it around. But Ketel Marte, I feel like was a second baseman that has been extremely underrated, dating back to before the World Series of last year. And I feel like
yeah.
ever since then, he's been excelling. This dude is a stud. He's an absolute stud. Dominican born. He played for the Dominican team, and I feel like they even had him batting at the bottom of the lineup. I'm just glad that everything seems to be working out for Ketel Marte. I feel like he's very underrated, and I'm glad that he's getting his flowers.
Quick question. I know it's a little off topic, but since we're already here, Manny Machado, how do you feel about him? Like, is that a player you would want on your team based on like how you see him play, like his
Yeah.
production
I mean, I'm
level?
gonna put it like this: on the Yankees right now, we were in the midst of third base as a whole. We had Josh Chisholm there filling in as of now. I expect him to not be there. I think he's gonna be moving over to second base. We shall see if he stays at third. I won't be mad at that. But at the end of the day, Manny Machado, I worry about this. I've seen, and these are things that I feel like people don't consider. But check this out. I look at how players take care of their body, and I look at how much of a drive they have. I feel like Manny Machado has been on the verge of either getting way too complacent, way too comfortable. And I say that because I've seen, photos of him celebrating and everything like that. And it looks as though that dude is beginning to to gain a little bit more weight around his stomach area. Now, the reason why it concerns me is because I'm curious to know how he's gonna be like going into his late 30s. Is he a person that's gonna peak right now, and is he gonna eventually start declining? You know, it's one of those where it's like if you're going into your late 30s, I want you to still to be taking care of your body. I want you to still be able to maximize who you are and to not grow complacent. So as of right now, to answer your question, yes, I would love Manny Machado on my team because we need productivity on third base. We can use another threat with the fact that Juan Soto, his departure could be looming. But in terms of longevity, I'm curious to know how Manny Machado is going to be able to be like. I mean, I expected MVPs out of him, and it
Do
hasn't
you
happened
think
yet.
do you think he lacks hustle, or you're fine with that aspect of his game?
I mean, every player is different, and I feel like if he was to come into the Yankees, that's going to be something that's going to be magnified.
Definitely.
At the end of the day,
But then Cano did it, you know. But my question is Cano the same as Machado, or are they different in that way?
I guess it just depends on the offensive productivity. If you can at least give me a double when it's meant to be a double, I'll take that.
Okay,
If
okay.
it's a ground ball, very fundamentally sound, and you're jogging the first,
You could live with it?
all right, I could live with that. But
Okay.
I can't have you have a booming double and you standing on first base. That's the difference.
Okay.
Going into the Silver Sluggers for the AL now
Yeah.
is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Really proud of him, man. I'm so glad that he was able to do it, like somewhat in a way bounce back because we were kind of questioning who he was as a player. Jose Altuve, it seems like it's just a lock every year. Bobby Witt Jr., I expect more out of this from him for the next 15 years. Jose Ramirez, one of my favorite underrated players ever. Aaron Judge, what do you expect? Anthony Santander definitely stepped it up this year, and he's in for a huge payday. Juan Soto, we'll get into that a little bit later. Salvador Perez, he wins one at least every other year for the catcher position. Brent Rucker, which is one that was very unexpected, playing for the now just the Athletics. Josh Smith as a utility man, love that, love the award in itself, and I love that it's highlighting different players that can do different things. And as a team, the New York Yankees. Uh, First and foremost, man, yes, our offense was greatly because of the Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. They are the reason we got that award, that team award for Silver Sluggers. But a lot of established names on this list, a couple of surprises, a couple of people that definitely stepped up big. I think out of all this, I'm probably most proud of Bobby Witt Jr. We already know that he can play good defense. We already know that he can run, and I feel like his hitting needed to come along, and it came
Yeah.
along in a huge way. So shout out to Bobby Witt Jr.
For me, I'm proud of Vladdy. Like you mentioned, he started the season a little slow. He still ended up with an OPS over 900. Um, he has 1 year left on his contract before he's a free agent. So someone to watch. If he's going to get traded, if he's going to go to the free agent market, and where will he go? Um, Shout out to Vladdy too, because I feel like there was a little stereotype or narrative around him, like how good is he? Because he only had 2 great years, which is his second in MVP when he won the Triple Crown behind Otani when
Right.
Otani was still in the Angels, and I think his rookie year, and then ever since that, it's been like an up and down thing. He's still been above average, but it's not the greatness that we expected. But this year, he shut out. He's still a baller. Even if he's not his pops, he's still a pretty damn good player. He's a potential superstar, so I like him, man, and I'm looking forward to what Vladdy does next.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, I see no surprises here, and I think that's a good thing. I feel like the Gold Glove list was a little bit surprising. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
but it is what it is, man. What can you do? Another surprise, something else that I want to get into, is gonna be the Cy Young Award. Now, I didn't expect the NL Cy Young to be Chris Sale, but as I look deeper into the numbers, I can see why he earned it. So for the Cy Young Award winners, we have Chris Sale, and we also have Tariq Skubal from the Detroit Tigers. Chris Sale was traded pretty much for nothing for the Atlanta Braves. It wasn't a great tenure with the Red Sox, filled with injuries. He was even contemplating retirement. I remember Chris Sale went on a show, I think it was Foul Territory,
yeah,
and he mentioned that him going to Atlanta was a good thing because now he's closer to home. He gets to spend more time with his family. There were days that when he spent it in the Red Sox that he was depressed. He wasn't sure of himself. and everything just worked out. The Atlanta Braves are known like the Dodgers franchise, giving players second chances, let them be who they are, and they ended up having great seasons for them. Out of bargain, that sounds very Dodger-esque, and great season for him, man. I mean, his ERA was below a two. Like this dude was great. This dude was great. What a turnaround. Nobody ever expected that.
Um, it's crazy that it took him this long to get a Cy Young in his age 35 season with the Braves. I also saw, I think it was in the same interview that you mentioned. There was a clip saying that as this year started, like so from like the end of last year, the off season to spring training, he considered retiring. He considered retiring due to
Ain't
the
that
injuries
crazy?
for the last 5, 6 years since he's been in Boston. He probably felt like he's over the rehab. He's done with the setbacks. He got traded, maybe not giving him a new perspective on life.
Like he had a lot of bad luck.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the White Sox, he was that dude, bro. The White Sox back then. But yeah, he just got a new perspective, a new of fresh air, closer to home, and he gave it a try, and he got us a young out of it. So maybe this allows him to extend his career a little longer, though he is 35. But we'll see. They found one. I also want to share a quick stat. The Braves, they have several Cy Young winners in the past, including Chris Sale, John Smoltz in '96, Greg Maddux in '93, '94, '95. That's impressive. Tom Glavine in '91 and '98, and then you got Warren Spahn, an old throwback from 1957. So they have legendary players like historically to get that done. So shout out Chris Sale.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean they're known for having great pitchers all throughout their franchise. Another
Yeah,
franchise with great pitchers is the Detroit Tigers. Now that could be because their ballpark is bigger than most places, but I think that we expected this out of Tariq Skubal. The fact that he was able to step up and finally fulfill that potential that we all saw in him, being a first round pick and all.
yeah.
Um, I expected this out of him. I feel like he definitely turned it up another gear. They ended up making a playoff run. He is now established as the franchise face. One could have thought that was Spencer Torkelson, but it's Tariq Skubal, bro. He's a great ace. Detroit is gonna be doing good with this pitcher for years to come. Hopefully, they lock him down. Great arsenal for years to come. I would like to see the Detroit Tigers spend a little bit this offseason. I feel like they can probably acquire another pitcher and maybe bring in a Justin Verlander that gives you a nice 1, 2, 3. And then we could see where they go. But great Arsenal and Tariq Skubal. Big things to come. I think this is only the beginning, which is one of the most exciting things. Is that for a lot of these people that are winning Silver Sluggers, Gold Gloves, we're seeing these young players finally flourish, and I think that's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. Going into actually I actually wanted to share this because you were kind enough to bring this upon us, so I could share it, and that's gonna be the previous Cy Young Award winners. For the previous years for the National League, we had Blake Snell, Sandy Alcantara, Corbin Burns, Trevor Bauer, Jacob DeGrom twice, Max Scherzer twice, Jake Arrieta, and Clayton Kershaw. Crazy list because not a lot of repetitive names. It seems as though every other year it seems to,
Yeah.
somebody else can go ahead and get this. But a lot of names that I mean, I feel like Trevor Bauer should be playing in the MLB, but that's a topic for another day. But it seems like every other year somebody else takes over.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's impressive too that Verlander did it twice as an Astro. Um,
Right.
Verlander did it in his age 36 season.
Oh yeah, and then I'm sorry, for the American League we have Garrett Cole, Justin
Oh,
Verlander, Robbie Ray, Shane Bieber, Justin Verlander, Blake Snell, Corey Kluber, Porcello, Dallas Keuchel, and Corey Kluber. So a lot of these names are either retired or no longer in the
yeah,
MLB
yeah,
or on the verge, or they're not no longer they're not themselves. They're not who they are.
yeah. Like I mentioned, like I'll go both on both, but like it's impressive that Verlander did it so late in his career. He's a three-time Cy Young winner. You got guys in the NL like Max Scherzer, three-time Cy Young winner, also played in the Tigers. Verlander played in the Tigers.
Right.
Scuba played in the Tigers. Remember David Price also played in the Tigers, almost had got a Cy Young. They build pitchers, bro. Like that's just a pitcher's ballpark. That's their identity, their whole career. Pitchers, pitchers, pitchers. Just like the Mets, the Grom, Tom Seaver, Doc Gooden. Like it's just some orgs are more pitcher oriented. Based on the dimension of the parks. a farm system where
As it
they,
should be. Yeah, you have to play
yeah,
to
yeah,
those
yeah,
strengths.
for sure. Um, I just love the last era where you had the Grom, Scherzer, and Kershaw. Those are like the best pitchers I've seen in my generation, bro. Um, yeah, that's what I could say with them.
I agree. I agree. No, very well said. And then we have the last reward that we want to go ahead and highlight before we wrap this episode, and
Yeah.
that's going to be the AL and NL MVP. Um, I think it was well expected. I didn't really have any doubts as to who was gonna win. More or less, I'm trying to find the graphic here, but for the American League, we had Aaron Judge, and then we had Shohei Ohtani for the National League. Aaron Judge had a phenomenal year, regardless of what happened in the playoffs. He's still a beast. It's a shame that that error that he made in the World Series is now was tied to him at this point in his career. But we cannot take what he did throughout the year for granted. He's still one of the great players in the MLB, both on offense and on defense. Defense is all right in center field, but I prefer him to go into the corner. But we can't take what he's done for granted. He's one of the great hitters of the sport. He's probably the greatest hitter right now in the MLB. And then we have Shohei Ohtani. I mean, what can be said? He's solely stuck to hitting, and he's still winning MVP. He had I think, a 40 and 70 season, no, excuse me. He had a 50-50 year. I think it was 50-60 he ended up ending
Yeah.
up. And of course, that's going to get you the MVP. Over
Yeah.
Lindor, any thoughts and opinions you want to share on that?
Well, I'm gonna stand on my position. Otani's amazing. I feel like any other year where he's a two-way player, he's very well deserving, assuming he did these stats. I just again feel like what are the metrics for MVP this year? Because you're simply voting an amazing player that only hit on offense and stole bases and created runs and hit for power versus a guy that almost had a 30-30 season, hit about 270, played borderline gold glove defense, led his team to the playoffs as the best player on his team, second NO in WAR on both sides. I don't know, bro. I don't know what's more valuable. Is the better player more valuable on a better team with more superstars around them, or is the better player the player that plays on both sides of the field at a demanding position at short and carrying his team to the playoffs that he's not even meant to be in that conversation in the first place? I don't know, bro. I could be biased, but I'm choosing Lindor in that, and that's not me saying that Lindor is better than Otani. But for the Mets, I think
Value,
Lindor is
yeah.
more valuable than Otani is to the Dodgers. That's what I think.
I agree. I agree. I think that's a very well point. I feel like I feel like the influence that he had on that Mets team and make them a playoff run. I just feel like there was one of those moments. I feel like it's so hypocritical. Like the MVP is so inconsistent. It could be given to anybody because
Yeah,
Lindor missing out on the MVP. But I'm like, I look at the influence from another sport. I look at the influence that Lamar Jackson has on the Ravens. Without Lamar Jackson, there is no Ravens, and yet
yeah,
he's constantly putting them in playoff positions, and
yeah.
he's won MVP. And then if you look at Francisco Lindor and his impact, you can say that he is the quarterback of the Mets team, and he can't, and it's not enough for him to win an MVP. I mean, we're gonna dive into Lindor in a deeper episode. I actually have a graphic that I found, and I'm a Yankee fan, but it's comparing his stats at this moment compared to Jeter's and his impact. I feel like Lindor is getting snubbed a lot, and it's like
I don't
it's
know what it
tough.
is, bro.
It's I don't know what it is, dude, and it's tough. But nonetheless, before we wrap this episode, I want to share one last graphic. It was something that you wanted to bring up, and that is the current home run leaders. Excuse me, um, that's currently active right now. And Giancarlo Stanton is number one. He's probably gonna be in the 500s before his career ends. Mike Trout, I don't know. And then we have Paul Goldschmidt, Freddie Freeman, Manny Machado, Arenado, Bryce Harper, JD Martinez, Carlos Santana, and McCutcheon in terms of current active home run leaders. Um, any thoughts on this graphic? Thought it was
Yeah,
pretty
it's
interesting.
impressed. Go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead.
It's impressive that sorry, not Arenado. It's impressive that Harper and Machado are right there in home runs, hits, and RBIs, considering they were drafted in the same year and they got paid a similar contract, the 10-year contract that they've gotten. It's impressive that they're still worth their contract and they're playing borderline MVP numbers to MVP numbers. Like, shout out to them. They have an identical career. Nonetheless, I could see Stan getting 500 maybe in a year and a half. Trout, damn, bro, this is the one that hurts me the most, bro, because this dude, bro, I feel like he's so forgotten nowadays, bro. And I don't know if I could blame anybody but himself or the Angels. Like, this dude was on pace to have probably 600 plus home runs. Easy, bro. Easy, bro. He can't stay healthy, bro, in a
I know.
horrible and sorry ass team. And it sucks, bro, because I feel like we're getting robbed of some greatness. I was putting this guy, arguably, potentially amongst the best players of all time, bro. He had the talent, he has the tools, he has the impact. He just doesn't have the health, bro, and that's what holds him back, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree. Very well said. I'm curious to know where Bryce Harper is going to fall on this list. I feel like the bottom three, JD Martinez, Carlos Santana, Andrew McCutchen, they do not have more than 2 more years left in the
No.
major leagues. I think Paul Goldschmidt is contemplating retirement right now.
Yeah.
I think that longevity wise, I think Bryce Harper is going to have a longer career than anybody else on this list, to be honest with you. Arenado's on a drop. Manny Machado, we'll see, but I think he's stagnant. Freddie Freeman, I think, is going to have a Hall of Fame career that might end sooner than people might assume because at some point he's going to look at it as like, hey, I don't need to play anymore. And, he had a scare with his son, so I think he's valuing, having family time. He lost his mom at a young age, so I think he's one of those people that's going to retire not early, but right when he's supposed to retire, and I can respect that. Mike Trout, we'll see where his career ends. Giancarlo Stanton, we have him for the next 3 years, so we'll see where he falls. But I think 500 is definitely something that the Yankees are gonna hope that he reaches because they can make some money off of that. But we shall see. We shall see. We have a
Um,
lot of yeah. Go ahead.
so quickly before we wrap up, I just want to say these quick fun facts. In regards to Aaron Judge and his MVP, he is one of six Yankees to have won two plus MVPs with the Yankees. Names are Joe DiMaggio in 1939, 1941, 1947. Mickey Mantle three times, 1956, 57, and 62. Joe Guerrero, 51, 54, and 55. Roger Maris, 1960, 1961. That's the previous home run record in the AL. Then you have Alex Rodriguez, 2005, 2007. And then you have Aaron Judge, 2022 and 2024. And then lastly, there was another stat in regards to Otani. Let's see. Oh yes, Otani is one of a few players to have won MVPs for multiple teams. He joins the list with Bryce Harper. He did it with the Nationals and the Phillies. A-Rod with the Rangers and the Yankees. Barry Bonds with the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Giants. Frank Robinson, the Reds and the Orioles, and Jimmy Fox of the A's and Boston.
Nice. Nah, that's a very hefty list. Excuse
Yes,
me.
Hall of Famer list. You have anything else to wrap it up?
No, no. I mean, thank you so much for that facts. It's very interesting because like these are things that we don't notice, but it's like we're literally in the midst of greatness.
Yes.
Coming across both leagues because what Otani is doing also. And one last point, well, Otani's MVP case, he did have a lot of controversy at the beginning of the year, and I'm glad that he ended up having the year that he did. World Series, MVP. I mean, that's something that movies is out of. The
Yes.
movies are made of, and I hope that this ends up being a marketing thing for the MLB and brings more eyes to the sport. That's my ultimate goal. But nonetheless, man, thank you so much for watching today's episode. This is episode 27. We have a couple more episodes coming out very, very soon. We have a lot of topics that we did not get to fit into this episode, but we'll be coming at you guys shortly after we post this one. Any other final thoughts?
Thank you for your time. Please subscribe, comment, share. We'll provide more content as the winter rolls along and stay warm, stay safe, enjoy your loved ones. Tune in, 300 Club season, out of here.